Hey guys, how's it going? So today I am doing a review, 3 looks 1 palette type video on the Tarteist Pro Remix palette. This has been a long time coming. People have been begging Tarte to come up with something that has more color, and they finally delivered. Now, it didn't make everybody happy because it's mostly shimmer, and I'll get into that in my video here in a little bit. You guys will kind of get an idea of how I feel about that personally. So yeah, if you guys are curious about my thoughts on this palette and want to see a few looks created, then go ahead and keep on watching. For the first look, I'm going to start off with the shade Wall Art right here. It's just a nice matte transition shade, and I'm going to take this just above my crease. If you guys hear like a whirring sound, we're right next to the furnace in my basement. I have found that this is the easiest place for me to film because I don't have to tear anything down. I'm just like literally down in the corner of my basement where nobody goes. The lighting's not the best, but oh well. So now I'm taking Flow on a wet brush, and I'm taking that just on the inner third. I'm going to clean my brush off using a color switch, and using that same brush I'm going into Color Explosion, this really pretty green shade. And again, we're going to wet the brush, and I'm taking this on the middle third of my lid. And we want to make sure that we overlap it with Flow so there's a nice transition there. Okay, then on the same brush, I'm taking Artist, this blue shade here. And again, we're gonna wet it. And we're placing that just on the outer third. Okay, and then to help blend everything together, I am going to break the cardinal rule of eyeshadows, and I'm gonna take these shimmer shades into my crease. The reason I'm opting to do that instead of using a matte is because there isn't a matte that's dark enough other than black, and that's a little bit too intense for what I'm looking for. So on a flat shader brush, I'm going back into Color Explosion, and I'm going to take this directly above where I place the color on my lid, and I'm just very lightly blending that into my crease. And then I'm going to do the same thing with Artist on the very outer portion of my crease. And now on a Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush, I'm going to take Wall Art again, and then I'm going to blend this over where we just placed those colors. And then back on that original fluffy brush, I'm just blending out the crease a little bit more and taking it down here. I'm gonna add some color to the lower lash line here in a second. To line my waterline, I'm gonna take the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in the shade Overdrive. It's just a really nice greenish blue. Okay, and I'm wanting to work fairly quickly. And then before that dries, I'm going to take Wall Art on the Real Techniques crease brush again and buff that all along the lower lash line. Then on a flat shader brush, I'm taking Color Explosion, and I'm going to buff this along the lower lash line as well. And then I'm going to do the same thing with Artist, just on the outer third. To highlight the inner corner, I'm going to take the shade Inspiration right here, just on my ring finger, and I'm tapping that along my inner corner area. So to finish off the look, I did 2 coats of mascara, and I applied the Ofra Long Lasting Liquid Lipstick in the shade Pasadena to my lips. It's just like a cool tone mauve, so that I felt would complement the cool toned eyes. That's going to do it for look number 1. Stay tuned, and I'll show you looks 2 and 3. Okay, so for the second look, I'm going to start off a lot like the first and use this matte shade as my transition. Now I'm going to dip into DIY. It's kind of a gunmetal shimmer shade, and I want to take this on the inner and outer corner of my lid. So just using a flat shader brush, I am going to wet my brush, and we're going to apply that right on the inner corner and on the outer corner, or outer V, whatever you say. Okay, then I'm going to dip into Flow. It's the shimmer shade right next to that, and I'm going to place this right on the center of the lid for our halo eye. So again, I'm wetting my brush. I'm just using the same flat shader brush. I went ahead and cleaned it off. I'm going to intensify it just a little bit with my finger. And then to smooth out that line, I'm going to go back into DIY and tap that right over where those two colors meet. Okay, and now to kind of help ease the transition between the lid shade and the crease shade, because they are there's a pretty distinct line there, I am going to dip into ink on just literally just dipping and tapping. So I don't want a ton of color payout here. I just want a little bit, just enough to deepen out the crease. So I'm going to take this on it's a Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush. And I'm just lightly adding that right above the lid. Then I'm going to go back into Wall Art. It's that original matte shade that we used on the same brush, and where I'm just going to add that over the black to help blend everything out. Okay, for the lower lash line, again on the Essential Crease Brush, I'm going into Wall Art, and we're going to buff this all along our lower lash line. Okay, and then I want to take Beat Drop and deepen up the lower lash line with that. So I'm just going to take that on a flat shader brush and place that along my lash line. Okay, then I'm going to go into DIY, and I'm taking it on a flat shader brush, and I'm going to apply that to the lower lash line. I am going to wet my brush a little bit. To highlight the inner corner, I'm going to take Flow, and I'm just going to take it on, and then I'm just going to take it on my ring finger, and I'm just going to tap the inner corner with it. Okay, then I'm going to apply a couple coats of mascara to finish up the eye look. For my lips, I'm going to apply Wet n Wild's Liquid Catsuit in the shade Rebel Rose. Okay, so that's it for the second look, and go ahead and stay tuned for look number 3. For the final look, I'm going to go back into Wall Art as our transition shade. It's really the only transition shade that you have. And I'm just going to apply this directly above my crease. Same old, same old. To start on the lid, I am going to go into Mic Drop right here. I'm going to take that on a flat shader brush, and I am going to go ahead and wet my brush. So I'm taking this on the inner portion of my lid. I am going to take the red on a flat shader brush again, and again I'm going to wet it. And we're going to pop this on the outer, like the outer half of my lid. And I'm going to kind of overlap it with the shade that we already put down. And the name of the shade is Graffiti. I don't know if that makes a difference for you guys or not, but I am going to clean up these edges just a little bit. Ooh. It sucks because I already did my base makeup, but it's not too bad. Because there's such a stark difference between the lid shade and the crease shade, I am going to go ahead and take Graffiti, the red shade, on a flat shader brush, and I'm just going to take this up into the crease a little bit to help that transition. I'm winging it out slightly. I really think that just helps create more of a cohesive look. I'm not a fan of stark lines in my makeup application, in case you haven't noticed that yet. Okay, I'm gonna go back into wall art and deepen the crease up as much as I possibly can with it. And I'm taking this on just that small Real Techniques brush that I use. For the lower lash line, I'm using the Marc Jacobs, what are you, highliner? Yes, in the shade Plumage. It's just a pretty, like, shimmery purple. So I am gonna take this right along my waterline, because red and purple looks good together. Okay, and then on that Real Techniques Essential Crease Brush, I'm taking Wall Art, and I'm going to buff this along the lower lash line. I always like to do the liner first and then go in with a shadow color and kind of buff it along that line just to create more of a seamless effect. Okay, and then I am going to go back into the red shade Graffiti on a flat shader brush, and I'm just taking this a little bit down along like the outer third of the lower lash line. And I'm going to highlight the inner corner of my eye with this kind of light champagne color. It's the shade Inspiration. So I'm taking that on a flat shader brush, and I am popping that right on my inner corner. Maybe a little bit along the lower lash line. Okay, I'm going to finish off the eyes with a couple coats of mascara, as usual. Okay, then to complete the look today, I'm taking the NYX Soft Matte Lip Cream in the shade Zurich. And this was something that I totally forgot that I had. Okay, you guys, so that is it for the final look for this 3 looks 1 palette video. I might as well go ahead and give my overall review now. There are things about this palette that I absolutely love. The shimmers perform really, really well. I think it desperately needs more matte shades. We've got one transition shade that will work for lighter skin tones. That's it. And then you get black. So, and then a bone white, which I will never use. I don't use these shades. I know a lot of people like to set their eyeshadow primer with those. I don't. I used to, but I don't anymore because I find that I get a better color payout if I don't. So I don't usually do that. But the shimmers really are beautiful. So this is great as a companion palette to something that has more mattes and more variety. So that is the biggest gripe that I have, is that I have to use, it's not a standalone palette, which actually made this video kind of challenging, but it forced me out of my comfort zone and it forced me to use shimmers in my crease, which I don't typically do. But that is another thing that I'll say, is that these shimmers do work in the crease. You don't want to go too crazy with it, but it does work to use the shimmer a little bit to help that transition like you guys saw me do. So that being said, I think that you can get some really pretty looks out of it. I'm happy that I have this. I received this as a gift for Christmas from my mom, and which I was really surprised about because she's always like, you have too much makeup. And there she goes, buying me makeup. I am going to do some swatches for you guys so that you know kind of what these look like. So I'm just going to go row by row. Okay, here is the first row. So the first row here, this is it swatched. These colors are absolutely beautiful. These blues are gorgeous. And if you don't have a lot of blues, these are good. And they're kind of an easy way to play with color. They're not super, super bright. They're very wearable. Okay, there's the second row. You got some really pretty neutrals here. I absolutely love these colors. You guys, honestly, I love all of these colors. I really do. Like I said, my only gripe with this palette is that it's not necessarily a standalone palette. It does help to pull in some other shades. Okay. All right, the third row here, these are the swatches for that. I did swatch the Bone White, you can't tell. I love this shade here. I'm not crazy about yellow gold on my skin tone. It just isn't really that great. And I'm not crazy about oranges for me either, but honestly, actually these two together for like a halo eye with a warmer matte in the crease would be absolutely beautiful. And then this is just like a matte black with some purple shimmer to it. That doesn't that doesn't get me super excited, but I might find a use for it at some point. Okay, and then the last row here, this is it swatched. And my hand was still a little wet from wiping off the swatches of the previous row, so these swatches are pretty intense. In my experience, this color here does not perform like this on the eye. I think these do perform like this on the eye when you use a wet brush. Same with this one. And this one I haven't used yet. It's like a duochrome. It's that kind of red-blue duochrome, which is super fun to play with, and I'm excited to try. So yeah, those are the swatches. Like I said, overall, I think it's a fine palette. I do really enjoy the shimmers. Like I said, the only thing that I wish it had were more mattes. That would be great. But if you have the original Tarteist Pro palette, I think this is probably a really great companion palette to that, which from a marketing standpoint, that's really, really smart on Tarte's part. I don't have that palette yet. It's been on my wish list for a long time because I love Tarte shadows. I really, really do. I think they perform wonderfully. But I have the Clay Play palette, so I think this would probably work for that. So at any rate, that's my review of the Tarteist Pro Remix. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Go ahead and like it if you did. Subscribe if you want to. I'd love to see you guys come back. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.